Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. Question: does Andy Ruiz Jr. deserve a third fight with Anthony Joshua anytime soon? And if you answered yes to that, tell me why you think that. And if the response is he beat Joshua in the first fight, it's now 1-1, he deserves to settle the rivalry, I would refer you back to the lack of a performance in the rematch. The rematch was the opportunity to 1. Defend his belts, which he won unexpectedly, 2. Prove he was better than Joshua and he had the belts outright if he beat him, and 3. Even if he lost, the manner of his performance would dictate how fans felt about the possibility of a third fight. And the fact is, he butchered any chance of having a trilogy fight anytime soon, in my view. And I'll come to that in more detail, but what's prompted this video is Ruiz again calling for the trilogy fight, like it's some sort of right, something that he deserves. On social media, again with the let's make the trilogy fight, saying, I got the first one, you got the second one, let's run it back a third time and see what's up. This has been a theme from Andy Ruiz Jr. in recent months. Immediately after the rematch and the post-fight press conference, he was talking about getting a third fight and negotiations. In interviews since and on social media, Andy Ruiz Jr. has referenced the third fight will be happening, and even before the current pandemic, he thought it was possible he'd get a shot at his old titles by the end of this year. And then you have him in other statements saying that he wants to tune up in August before considering a fight with the likes of Luis Ortiz. But a clear pattern has emerged. Ruiz is adamant that he will be getting the trilogy fight sooner rather than later. And if it happens, well, it will certainly, in my view, be later rather than sooner. And I'll touch on that in a little bit. What Ruiz seems to fail to comprehend is he lost the goodwill of fans through his own actions and statements. The fact that he came out after the rematch and stated, yeah, I didn't train properly, that's why I blew up to 283 pounds and it's why I lost the fight. It was a staggering admission. Fans were not only shocked, disappointed, but also angry with the former unified champ. We all expected to see both guys at their best, but instead, Ruiz put his best work in at the buffet table instead of the gym. And yes, this is a shot of Ruiz at a buffet table in Saudi Arabia just days before the fight. Ruiz rationalized the loss by effectively saying, look, I would have won if I was in better condition. I will be in better shape for the third fight. I mean, come on. A lot of fans felt let down and ripped off by his actions, but he wants us to support a third fight and part with money to watch him on pay-per-view. Seemingly, he just hasn't developed any perspective on why fans are so irritated by his comments and why fans, for the most part, have little interest in seeing a third fight. If he can't get up for the biggest fight of his life and train like he needs to beat a world-class athlete, what confidence can we have he will turn it around? And this is why most of us need to see him in other fights first before we'll sort of consider, yeah, I want to see him again in a title fight. We want to see him. Show us you can put the work in. Show us you can beat some top guys. And then, only then, are fans going to be interested in seeing Ruiz in title fights. And if you're one of those fans that wants to see him get a shot at Joshua right now, you're in the minority of fans. Ruiz now just wants to cut to the front of the queue at a time people aren't interested in him getting a free shot at a title. I don't think he realizes that he has to rehabilitate his image to get fans invested in him facing Joshua or a Fury. In the meantime, I do want to see him fight. I want to see him in the ring, just not against Joshua. I'll be watching, looking for progress, dedication, discipline, all of the things I would have expected from him when he was the champion. And that's the disappointing element. He clearly let some of his own hype go to his head. He wasn't disciplined, blew off training to be with his friends, and he thought all he had to do was go in the ring and everything was going to work out. Let's face it, It might be tougher for Andy Ruiz Jr. to win certain fights in the heavyweight division because the blueprint to beat him, it's there. Keep it long, work off the jab, move around the ring. It's not rocket science, and Joshua didn't invent that blueprint either. He just repeated what Joseph Parker did in 2016, a performance where Ruiz again failed to cut off the ring and was looking for counterpunch opportunities. In the Joshua fight, there were just far fewer opportunities for that, and that messed Ruiz up. He didn't have much to work with, to work off. And recently, Teddy Atlas actually did a show discussing Ruiz. He put together detailed notes on Ruiz ahead of any potential meeting that they might have about Atlas training him. That meeting never happened, and subsequently Atlas released the notes on Twitter after doing the segment that he did. And I've discussed that situation more in depth recently on my Patreon, and the link to Patreon in the description box. But there's a couple of points just worthy of mentioning briefly. Ruiz was 255 pounds for the Parker fight, and he lost. He was in much better shape than the 283 pounds he was for the Joshua rematch. And Atlas said of Ruiz, he would have lost to Joshua in the second fight even if he was in better shape, and he cited the Parker example. The way that Joshua fought, keeping it long and moving, it was just a bridge too far for the much smaller man. And I agree he probably would have lost the second fight even if Ruiz was in better condition. The weight excuse from Ruiz, it really is just that. Joshua adjusted. Ruiz did not, or could not. Also, Atlas, he stated that technical deficiencies that Ruiz had, and has always had, are not being addressed. And the reason why no one is talking about them is because everyone is talking about his weight instead. And I think that's a very valid point. We don't look at some of what's wrong with what Andy Ruiz does because everyone is focused on how big he is. But I'll go a step further actually. Ruiz had a close fight with Parker in 2016. Then disappeared for over a year before facing some low-level competition. Part of the reasons the deficiencies aren't being talked about by fans more broadly is because he hasn't been in the spotlight in most of his prime. His profile was almost subterranean for a couple of years there. He would get the odd mention from someone like a Jarrell Miller, who'd turn down his call-outs, call him a fat burrito, etc. But when he joined PBC, I did a video about that, and the level of interest in that was low. But people got up to speed really quickly once he won the titles unexpectedly, and there was an army of casual Andy Ruiz fans declaring him unbeatable. What a difference 6 months can make. But to come back to what I was talking about at the start, I can't see any way, rhyme or reason for Ruiz to queue jump over other contenders to get a title shot right now. The fact Andy Ruiz is so adamant that there's a third fight, that it's happening soon, and that he believes anyone is interested right now, it is bordering on delusional. It makes me wonder who is around this guy right now trying to keep him grounded, telling him what's what, as opposed to blowing smoke up his backside. Because he's talking like a guy who doesn't have a firm grip of the lay of the land in the heavyweight division right now and his place in it. I certainly don't think he realizes that fans are not happy with him, not happy with his comments after the rematch, that fans are not particularly interested in seeing him getting a massive payday and having no guarantee that he will put in the work that is required. As it is, he says he's ready for Joshua, but he also needs a tune-up before facing Luis Ortiz. It doesn't make sense, does it? Nor does the repeated posts about a big announcement coming soon. Just make the announcement. It's, announcing announcements to announce other announcements. It's ludicrous. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.